Gunfire splits the silence. Streets empty, doors slam shut, and entire cities freeze as armored convoys chase each other for control over Jalisco and Sinaloa. Headlines scream of cartel assassinations, territorial conquests, plaza taxes, and shock tactics meant to intimidate rivals in the state alike. Everything about this war looks like a struggle for the classic spoils of the Mexican drug trade: cocaine routes, gunmen, dirty money. But the drugs were never the real business. Maria ducks behind her living room wall as the first shots crack through the morning. By noon, the city is unrecognizable. Convoys of armored trucks block intersections, their engines idling behind burned-out buses. Air thick with the smell of gasoline and fear. The phone lines are jammed. Rumors ripple faster than sirens. El Mencho is dead, or maybe it is just another warning. It does not matter. Police cars reverse out of neighborhoods, lights off, windows up. No one is coming. Flights are canceled without notice. School gates stay chained, their playgrounds empty, swings creaking in the wind. In the market, shopkeepers pull down metal shutters during a sale, cash drawers left open, produce rotting under the sun. Buses grind to a halt, leaving passengers stranded between cartel checkpoints and the edge of town. Every route out is blocked or burning. Inside her home, Maria counts the hours by the sound of distant gunfire and the silence that follows. Children whisper in closets. The city's heart stops. No traffic, no commerce, no help. In the first 24 hours, life is reduced to waiting. Waiting for a knock, a demand, a mistake. Waiting for the rules to change. For Maria, and for thousands like her, survival means vanishing into the background, hoping to be overlooked. But the drugs were never the real business. Shops that once opened at sunrise now sit abandoned, their shelves stripped bare. Street vendors vanish overnight, and the cost of a loaf of bread doubles without warning. In Maria's neighborhood, the only people moving freely are those collecting debts or demanding new payments. She watches as neighbors, one by one, tape handwritten for sale signs to iron gates, knowing full well no one will buy. The city's economy doesn't just stall, it dissolves. Every closed business, every empty classroom, leaves behind a vacuum that is quickly filled not by hope, but by new rules. Informal taxes appear where receipts used to be. Prices climb, not because of scarcity, but because someone somewhere is taking a cut. Maria starts to sense a pattern. The chaos isn't random. It's organized, methodical. The violence that empties the streets also clears the way for a different kind of commerce. But the drugs were never the real business. The real profit comes after the shooting stops, in the silence that follows. Families forced to run become assets, each one a source of revenue, tracked and taxed as they move. Instability isn't a side effect, it's the product. If displacement is profitable, stability becomes bad for business. For Maria, the realization lands with the weight of a threat. In this new economy, survival itself is something to be bought and sold. Don Hector stands at the edge of a cracked irrigation ditch, boots sunk in mud, watching as a siphon hose pulses with stolen fuel. The pipeline hums beneath the fields, older than most of the men working it, but now it's the backbone of a new kind of order. In Guanajuato, the rules are written not by mayors or police, but by the men who control the flow of huachicol, black market gasoline. Each barrel is a bargaining chip, each liter a link in a chain that stretches from these rural backroads to the edge of the U.S. border. The price of fuel at the pump is only half the story. The real calculation happens in the shadows, where quotas are set by cartel bosses and paid by everyone who wants to move, to sell, or just to survive. Checkpoint guards, sometimes in uniform, sometimes not, wave cars through with one hand and collect envelopes with the other. The amounts aren't fixed. One week it's 100 pesos to pass, the next it's double, depending on which faction holds the road. Vendors whisper about a quota for every delivery truck, every bus, every migrant van that rattles past the fields. Miss a payment, and the next time you drive this road, you might not come back. Local police turn a blind eye, or else they're the ones collecting. In some towns, the cartel quota is as familiar as the morning bread truck. In others, it's a silent threat, enforced by fire or gunshots in the night. The siphoning isn't just about fuel, it's leverage. When the tanks run dry at the gas station, families can't get to work. When buses stop running, children can't get to school. But the cartel trucks keep moving, loaded with fuel, goods, and sometimes people. If you want to leave, if you want to move your family north, there's a price. The same men who drained the pipelines now control the escape routes. They tax the passage of migrants just as they tax the flow of gasoline. In the eyes of the cartel, people and fuel are commodities, interchangeable, profitable, and always in motion. Don Hector remembers when the fields were quiet, when the only danger was a bad harvest. Now the threat is invisible, woven into every transaction, every journey. The town's economy bends around the logic of the siphon hose. Shops pay for protection to avoid being burned. Families pay to cross a checkpoint without questions. Those who can't pay, those who resist, find their names on a list, their houses marked for a visit. The violence isn't random. It's a tool used to clear the ground for a new business model. One that profits from movement, from fear, from the simple need to get from one place to another. In this system, the collapse of the old economy isn't a failure, it's a strategy. The more desperate the town becomes, the more valuable every fleeing family is to those who control the routes. The pipeline, once a symbol of progress, now marks the boundary between those who pay and those who run. Don Hector sits at his kitchen table, calloused hands wrapped around a chipped mug, eyes fixed on the empty chair across from him. His wife whispers about the neighbors, gone in the night, their house already stripped for copper wire and roof tiles. The school at the edge of town has not reopened in 73 days. The last teacher to stay was threatened, then vanished. Children roam the fields or linger by the highway, waiting for trucks that never come. Some are just 6 or 7, already learning the names of the men who run the checkpoints. Others, not much older, have been seen in the company of men with radios and black bandanas, boys who should be in class, now holding lookout on the canal road. The choices close in, slow as dusk. Stay, and the family risks being noticed. The list of those who refused to pay or who spoke out grows longer. The price for defiance is never written down, but everyone knows it. Collaboration is another path, one that starts with a favor, a message delivered, a night spent driving a borrowed truck, and ends with a debt that cannot be repaid. Submission means paying whatever is asked, whenever it is asked, until there is nothing left to give. Flight is the last option, and the most onerous. Word travels fast. The men at the checkpoint keep a tally. Every family that leaves is another transaction, another fee, another body to be moved north or held for ransom. Don Hector's oldest son, barely 16, has already been approached. The offer is simple. Work for us and your family stays safe. Refuse, and the next knock on the door might not be a warning. The boy's friends, Kids who once played soccer in the dust behind the grain silo have disappeared, some sent to watch the pipeline, others to collect payments from shopkeepers. The town's future is shrinking to a handful of bad options, each one measured in risk and cost. At night, Don Hector listens for footsteps in the yard, for the sound of engines idling on the road. He counts the money in the coffee tin, wonders if it is enough to buy a few days of peace or a seat in the back of a truck heading north. The fear is constant, but so is the calculation. Every day the school stays closed. Every time a neighbor's gate is marked, the message is clear. There is no neutral ground. You pay, you work, or you run. And whichever path you choose, someone is waiting to collect. The old rules, work hard, keep your head down, trust in the harvest, do not apply anymore. Now, survival is a matter of negotiation, of knowing when to disappear, of deciding who to trust with your life. For Don Hector and families like his, the crossroads is not a choice at all. It is a narrowing tunnel, lit only by the knowledge that staying put is just another way of being moved, one way or another, into someone else's business model. Carlos presses his ear to the wall, counting footsteps in the hallway outside. Ana has lost track of the days. The air inside the safe house is thick, sour with sweat, bleach, and the slow rot of plastic-wrapped food. The windows are blocked with cardboard. The only light comes from a single bulb, flickering overhead. Every sound from the street, an engine backfiring, a dog barking, makes her flinch. There is no clock, no calendar, only the rhythm of collection, a knock, the door opening, a man's voice demanding payment for another day of protection. The first night, the rules were explained in whispers. Stay quiet. Don't leave the room. Don't ask questions. Every bed, every blanket, every meal comes with a price. The man with the notepad, nobody knows his name, writes down the number of people in each room, the days they've stayed, the debts they've racked up. The fee isn't fixed. It rises with the tension outside, with rumors of a raid, with the number of families crowding the rooms. Sometimes Ana hears the word quota, the same word that haunted her old neighborhood. Here, it means survival. At first, Carlos tried to keep track of the money. He counted out crumpled bills, handed them over each morning, hoping it would buy them safety for another day. But the rules change without warning. One morning, the price doubles. Another, they're told the payment must be in US dollars. A neighbor, desperate, offers a wedding ring instead. The man with the notepad shrugs. No cash, no stay. Within an hour, the family is gone. No one asks where. The safe house is not a refuge. It is a checkpoint, a toll booth in the middle of the journey north. The people who run it are not coyotes, not guides, not protectors. They are accountants, keeping a ledger of every head, every night, every peso collected. The walls are thin. At night, Ana hears the muffled sobs of a child in the next room, the low voices of men negotiating over the phone, the scrape of a chair as someone is moved to another part of the house. Outside, the city is locked down. Inside, the rules are enforced with silence. Carlos knows that the money will run out before the fear does. He has seen the way the man with the notepad looks at Ana, at the other women, at the children. The longer they stay, the greater the risk, not just of running out of money, but of being handed off, sold, or disappeared. Every day in the safe house is a transaction. Every delay, every extra charge is another line in the cartel's ledger. There are no receipts, no guarantees. only the knowledge that the longer you wait, the more you owe. The safe house is a holding pen, a human warehouse where fear is measured in days and dollars. For Carlos and Ana, the journey north has stalled, not in the desert, not at the border, but in a cramped room where every breath, every hour, is taxed. The only certainty is the knock at the door, the outstretched hand, the demand for payment, and the quiet threat that if you can't pay, someone else will take your place. Carlos clutches the last of their cash as the safe house empties out. He's learned quickly. The journey north does not start with a step. It starts with the first payment at the door. Ana, eyes fixed on the ledger in her mind, tries to keep track as the numbers shift. Every day there is a new fee, sometimes for the bed, sometimes for silence. But the real shock comes later. The price is never paid just once. The cartel's ledger grows with every mile. At the edge of their neighborhood, a man in a ball cap stands guard, clipboard in hand, collecting the first toll. Locals call it the plaza, a tax for the right to leave. The fee is not set. Carlos has heard stories. Some pay a few hundred pesos. Others pay thousands of pesos, depending on the time, the number in the car, or the mood of the man with the gun. No one argues. No one asks for proof. The rule is simple: pay or turn back. The road is never straight. Every checkpoint means another outstretched hand. The double plaza system, as old as the cartels, has become a refined machine, an economy built on fear and movement. For every convoy, every battered truck, there are two tolls, one at departure and another at arrival. The road itself becomes a marketplace, every node a chance to extract more. As Carlos and Ana move from town to town, the pattern is unmistakable. The same faces that emptied their pockets in Guanajuato appear again at the edge of Zacatecas and once more outside Monterrey, each time the price climbs. Sometimes it is pesos, sometimes dollars. Rumors spread of convoys paying both Sinaloa and Jalisco new generation collectors, each demanding a cut. If a family cannot pay at the second plaza, they are turned back, held for ransom, or simply disappear. Community stories echo this pattern. In Santa Rosa de Lima, mothers count coins at midnight, praying the sum matches the quota for safe passage. A bus driver in Michoacan tells of vehicles stopped twice in one night, each time by different men, each time forced to pay. The amounts shift, but the rule holds. The journey is taxed at both ends and sometimes in between. Every checkpoint is another risk, another profit. The cost piles up, mile by mile, until the original fare is lost in a sea of extractions. Carlos and Ana realize there is no single price for freedom. The system is built to bleed them, ensuring someone profits at every step. The double plaza is not just a shakedown, it is a business model. Each plaza operates like a toll booth, manned by men with radios and lists. Migrants are not just passing through, they are inventory, tracked and taxed at every stage. The real profit is not in hidden drugs, but in people forced to pay for every kilometer. At the next safe house, a new collector arrives, ledger in hand. Carlos counts their dwindling cash, knowing the journey will demand payment again. The price is never final. Every stop is another plaza, another toll, another reminder that movement itself is the commodity. A ledger sits open on a plastic folding table with columns for names, amounts, dates. In towns emptied by gunfire, the cartel's accounting is both simple and relentless. Every checkpoint, every safe house, every mile traveled by a family in flight becomes a line item. The system has a name: Plaza. In practice, it is a toll, a tax on movement, a fee for the right to exist or escape. The men who collect it call themselves administrators, not extortionists. No receipts, no appeals. The only proof is the silence that follows payment. Across Jalisco, Guanajuato, Michoacan, and Sinaloa, these plazas form a lattice of profit. A convoy of migrants pays at the edge of town, again at the next crossroads, and once more at the border. In some places, rival factions split the take, one cartel at departure, another at arrival, each demanding its cut. The money flows upward, pooled by plaza bosses who answer to men with names like El Lobo, who once told a reporter, "If you control the road, you control the money. It's not about drugs anymore, it's about everything that moves." The scale is staggering. U.S. indictments from the last 6 years show that human smuggling alone generated over $1 billion in seized assets, nearly matching what the same cartels earned from drug shipments. That figure only counts what has been caught. The true sum, moving in cash, crypto, and wire transfers, is impossible to pin down. But investigators and economists agree the revenue from taxing migration now rivals the old narco economy. In some corridors, the fee for a single family's passage can exceed the price of a kilo of meth. Kidnapping and ransom are woven into the same accounting. Families who cannot pay at a checkpoint are held, sometimes traded, their freedom sold to the highest bidder. Each ransom paid is another line in the cartel's books, another justification to keep the system running. In Culiacan, after the city's collapse, kidnapping surged so high that ransom payments were used to finance fleets of fuel theft trucks, one racket feeding another. Safe houses are no longer just waypoints, they are revenue centers. Every bed, every night, every meal is billed. The collector with the notepad becomes a gatekeeper, deciding who moves forward and who is left behind. For those trapped in these holding pens, the charges pile up daily, often muddling with rumors of a police raid or a shift in cartel control. When the cash runs out, jewelry, phones, or even children are taken as collateral. The sums, when added together, reach into the billions. The Vision of Humanity report puts the annual economic cost of violence in Mexico at $19 billion US, with cartel-imposed taxes and fees making up a growing share of that total. In the 4 main states, the loss is measured not just in pesos, but in futures. Businesses shuttered, schools emptied, families forced to pay for every step they take. The drugs are still moving, but the real business is the movement itself. Every displaced person, every migrant convoy, every ransom paid is another entry in a system designed to turn suffering into profit, uncertainty into cash flow, and fear into a balance sheet that never quite closes. El Lobo sits quietly, hands folded, eyes darting toward the door. He does not fit the image of a boss, no swagger, no jewelry. He's a man who has learned to keep his voice steady when talking about numbers. Names are dangerous. Numbers are safe. He lays out the price chain with a kind of weary precision. The journey north begins with a fee at the first checkpoint, sometimes just a few thousand pesos, enough to convince a family they can afford hope. But that is only the start. Every hand that touches you adds to the price, he says. The coyote who promises safe passage takes his share, but he is just the first. Each plaza, each safe house, means another payment. The price is not set. It shifts with whispers of violence, with the number of families waiting, with the mood of the men in charge. Some pay a few $1,000s for the whole route. Others, unlucky or simply in the wrong place, face demands of $10,000, $20,000, even $30,000 just to keep moving. He remembers a convoy, 12 families, 2 trucks, children staring out dusty windows. The first collector let them pass for $6,000 each, paid in crisp U.S. bills. At the next stop, the fee doubled. One family could not pay. The collector made a call, and the new price was set. The father would stay behind as collateral. The others moved on, -1. Ransom, El Lobo says, is just another number. If you cannot pay, you become the product. In some corridors, a family is worth more as leverage than as cargo. The ransom demands are not written down, but everyone knows the range. Sometimes it is a few $1,000s, a quick payment, a release. Other times, the demand climbs to tens of thousands. The higher the fear, the higher the price. He has seen ransoms paid in gold chains, wedding rings, even deeds to houses left behind. Everything is negotiable, he says, except the rules. Each step north is another transaction. The price rises with every risk, every rumor of a raid, every whisper of a rival group moving in. Safe houses run like motels. But the fee is not for comfort. It is for silence, for invisibility. When the money runs out, options vanish. Some are handed off to another coyote. Some are held for ransom. Some simply disappear. For El Lobo, numbers are clean. The faces behind them, mothers, children, men who once owned shops, are harder to forget. He remembers a woman offering her daughter's gold earrings for one more day of shelter. The collector said it was not enough. In the end, the ledger always balances. The journey is measured in payments, debts, and what is lost along the way. The price chain's arithmetic keeps the system running. For those at the top, suffering is just another line on the balance sheet. For everyone else, it is the cost of survival. $19 billion. That is what the Vision of Humanity report estimates. Mexico loses each year to violence, enough to fund every public university in the country, with billions left over. But this is not just a number on a spreadsheet. It is the drag on every paycheck, every business, every hope of stability. In the towns emptied by gunfire, the cost is not measured in pesos or dollars, but in futures that never arrive. Factories close, investments vanish, and the formal economy withers. The real accounting happens in silence, children kept home from school for months, teachers who never come back, clinics shuttered for fear of extortion. In Jalisco, Guanajuato, Michoacan, and Sinaloa, homicide rates soar past 30 per 100,000, each killing a signal that commerce is no longer safe, that the rules have changed. Carlos Garcia, an economist who has spent years tracing the flow of money through these fractured regions, describes the system as a kind of negative gravity. Violence is not just a byproduct, it is a tax on every transaction, he says. It pulls everything down. He points to the national figures. In 2021, the total economic impact of interpersonal violence reached $192 billion, nearly 15% of Mexico's GDP. That is not just lost profits or stolen goods. It is the value of lives disrupted, businesses abandoned, and whole communities forced to live in the shadow of threat. In the 4 cartel heartlands, the losses are staggering. $5 billion a year evaporating from local economies. Every school closure, every market shuttered by a threat is a line item in this invisible ledger. The drugs keep moving, but the real business is the movement itself, The forced migration of families, the extraction of fees at every checkpoint, the ransom of hope for a safe passage north. The system is designed to be self-sustaining. Instability feeds the business model. Every new wave of displacement creates another stream of revenue. Each family forced to flee becomes a commodity, every journey another opportunity to collect. The logic is brutal, but it is rational. If fear is profitable, peace becomes a liability. The longer the conflict drags on, the more the balance sheet grows. For the state, the cost is suffocating. Social programs are cut to pay for security. Hospitals and schools compete with armored vehicles and police overtime. The national economy absorbs the shock, but the pain is local. In towns like Culiacan or Santa Rosa de Lima, the collapse is visible in every empty storefront, every abandoned playground, every family that disappears in the night. Carlos Garcia puts it plainly, "We are not just losing money, we are losing the future." The cartels have figured out how to turn chaos into cash flow and suffering into a business model. Until that changes, the numbers on the ledger will keep climbing, and the cost will be paid by everyone who stays behind. Instability is not a side effect, it is the product. In towns where the economy has been hollowed out and the price of bread changes with the mood of men at the checkpoint, the logic becomes almost unthinkable. Chaos is more reliable than peace. Each school that closes, each field abandoned, each family forced to run, feeds a system where suffering is not just collateral damage, but a line of revenue. The numbers are staggering, but they are only the surface. $19 billion lost to violence each year, yet the losses are not evenly shared. For those who remain, the cost is measured in futures erased, in children who never return to class, in shops that never reopen. The cartels have found a way to make uncertainty pay. Every time a family is forced to flee, the network expands. Each checkpoint, each safe house, each toll plaza becomes another opportunity to extract payment. The rules are simple. If you want to move, you pay. If you want to stay, you pay. If you resist, you become the next example. Plaza bosses, some named by the U.S. Treasury as specially designated narcotics traffickers, operate like shadow bankers, collecting, laundering, and distributing the proceeds of displacement. The system is so entrenched that even the threat of stability, a reopened school, a police patrol, a harvest undisturbed, is treated as a risk to the business model. If peace threatens profit, then violence is maintained, not as a means to an end, but as an end in itself. The question is not how to stop the violence, but how to make it unprofitable. As long as every forced movement can be taxed, as long as every empty house feeds the next round of extortion, the cycle will continue. Attempts to choke off drug shipments or arrest high-profile leaders have little effect when the real money flows through the arteries of human movement. The plazas, the safe houses, the ransom chains, they are the financial infrastructure of an invisible economy. But there are cracks in the system. In some towns, communities have tried to push back, not with guns, but with collective resistance. Farmers pool money to pay a single quota rather than be picked off one by one. Teachers form underground networks to keep schools running in secret. In rare cases, targeted sanctions against plaza operators freeze assets and disrupt payment chains, forcing cartels to fragment their operations. Yet these measures are fragile, always at risk of being overwhelmed by the next wave of violence, the next round of forced migration. The system adapts, shifting routes, inventing new fees, finding new ways to turn desperation into income. The stakes are not only economic, they are moral. existential. What does it mean to live in a place where the value of a human life is calculated in pesos and dollars, where the future is mortgaged to pay for survival today? For every Maria, every Don Hector, every Carlos and Ana, the ledger is more than numbers. It is a record of what has been lost and a warning of what is still at risk. Until the profit motive is broken, until the financial arteries of displacement are cut, the war will not end. The drugs were never the real business. The business is people, and the cost is paid by those left behind. Today, more than 378,000 Mexicans live displaced by cartel violence, each a commodity in an invisible marketplace. As forced migration becomes a business model, the logic of instability spreads. Every emptied home, every silent classroom becomes another ledger entry. The question now is not how to stop the trade in drugs, but how to disrupt the trade in people. Until we reckon with this, the war profits from every step they take. Share your thoughts below.